And as the daughter of a school teacher, I know just how important education is. No matter how old you are or your situation, continuing to learn will enrich your life and help remove barriers you didn't even know were there. So much opportunity, y'all. Whether it's a foreign language, history, or a different way to look at things, take some time each day to learn something new. This message is courtesy of the United States Air Force. This is WCPT 820, where you can hear the Stephanie Miller Show every weekday, 8 to 11 a.m. Because facts matter. I'm Rita Paul Lane. The controversial subject of abortion comes up for a vote today in the Senate.
A test vote is scheduled in the Senate today on a Democratic bill to protect access to abortion. But the vote will be mostly symbolic, and it is expected to fail. The House passed the Women's Health Protection Act last year, but it's been held up in the Senate by a Republican filibuster. In the wake of last week's leak of a Supreme Court draft that indicated the landmark Roe v. Wade decision might be overturned later this year, today's Senate vote is largely about putting members on record. Mike Corostia, Washington.
You know prices have been going up on food, gas, and other things we need. Well, this morning we'll find out exactly how much. The AP's Mike Hempen.
The government is expected to report today that consumer prices jumped 8.1% last month compared with a year earlier. That's according to a survey of economists by data provider FactSet. That would be down from the 8.5% year-over-year surge in March, which was the highest since 1981.
President Biden will highlight the...
Okay, I have Reverend Johnson on the line and ready.
Okay.
We farm today.
Hi, Vicki. How you doing?
How U.S. agricultural exports can relieve the financial pressure.
Okay, I can't hear her, honey. For
says yes to
need you to
$40
bring that
foreign
down.
aid to Ukraine as it...
Okay, thank you so much. How you doing, Vicki?
I'm doing great, Sandy. How are you?
I am doing great. Doing great. Just trying to get the last of this, you know that. I'm trying to get some things done here. Okay.
That picture is so beautiful.
Oh, girl, I'm so glad we took it, you know? But thank you so much. And I posted it late. But oh my goodness. But thank you so much.
Right on time.
Yeah, you know, because you're trying to get through your own day. I'm still trying to adjust to social media. You know, what people don't know about us is that we're private. You know, once we've done our thing, whatever that is, we go home.
Right. Right.
You know, that's so it's always, you know, people are like, well, you know, we'd love to see more of. I said, when I'm out having dinner with my family, really? No. That would be a no. And you know, and I don't take pictures of my nieces and nephews either, you know, so it's like, you know, no, even though they're now officially, most of them grown, I still don't, you know, it's like, well, let them have some thing. Oh, so I try, and then my mother is not fond, you know that. She is like, what? But you know, that picture was fun. I'm glad she let me do it. Okay. Okay, Astros. I'm sorry, getting these scores down. And okay. All right. Just so much that you have to do on morning drive. You got to get all the scores in and all of that.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Exciting basketball going on.
I know. So, my girl, here we go. 3-2. Kings. 5, 3, 4. Okay.
1 minute.
Okay. All right. And whew, okay, here we go. Got this. And you know what? I'm having to text upside down. Matt, I text upside down. So if you can just, even if you can get in my ear, that would help me a lot. Okay?
Okay. Yep.
Because I'm trying to stay on the, trying not to
Okay, here we go.
set
7
myself off.
seconds.
Okay.
Change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate, to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world. I am breathing.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. It's Wednesday, May 11th, 2022. I'm Santita Jackson, coming to you from WCPT, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. Everybody, I want to hear from you today as we talk about men and vasectomies. That's right. Did you know that the searches for vasectomy shot up by 250% since the SCOTUS leak last week? What about men and vasectomy? Should they take a more active role in contraception, in family planning? And more than that, what would happen if the courts intervened and said that men need to be, they need to have a vasectomy at a particular time? Do you think that would change the conversation if a man's fate were on the table as well? Should men be mandated to get vasectomies? Call me at 773-763-9278. 773-763-9278. It's not really funny. There's a legislator who kind of put up a joke piece of legislation about it, but it's really not a joke. It's something to think about. It's something to think about. In India, only 0.3% of men have had a vasectomy, and way above 20% of women have. And they put in the second most populous country on earth, they put family planning squarely on the shoulders of women. Is that fair? Let's talk about that, everybody. Let's talk about that on the Santita Jackson Show. And what about all these Illinois hospitals that have gotten these grades of F and C? That's right. In Northwestern, another hospital's got a C average. And we're going to ask Dr. Shanita Knighton about that. You should be looking at your hospitals and grading them. Yes, you should. You need to know which hospitals are safe for you to go to and which are not. Yeah, this new study that came out. And then Delaware State, historically black college. They have a lacrosse team. Increasing numbers of black colleges are getting lacrosse teams, which at the white schools, and particularly the elite white schools like Harvard, Yale, UVA, Vanderbilt, I mean, elite, and Southern, elite. That is really the big sport. Not football, those are the income generating sports, but the high profile, high cachet, the big man on campus is the lacrosse man. That's right. And the ladies are catching up. Well, their lacrosse team, this HBCU, Delaware State lacrosse team, the bus was stopped and they were harassed by white police officers. We're going to talk about that because the governor of the state has rebuked the police officers, as has the president of that college. So let's talk about that university. Let's talk about that on the Santita Jackson Show. Want to hear your thoughts? Call me at 773-763-9278. I know you all have thoughts about men and vasectomies, and I want to hear your thoughts. Every time I see a lot of crossed legs right now, Pastor Vicki Johnson, but I think that we need to have that discussion as we're talking about family planning, family planning. So let's get to some of these headlines. In Chicago, it's going to be a beautiful day. It already feels fantastic. 77 degrees, mostly cloudy. Minneapolis, St. Paul, 80 degrees, scattered thunderstorms. The Dow closed down yesterday, 84 points. The Nasdaq closed up 114 points. The S&P 500 closed up 9. In the NBA playoffs, as Pastor Vicki Johnson said just before we came on the air, we've had some exciting games, and these are some tight series. Miami leads their series 3-2, and they won last night over the 76ers, 120-85. Phoenix leads their series 3-2, and the Suns won over the Mavericks, 110-80. Convincing wins, everybody. And the Bucks, the world champion Bucks, will be playing the Celtics tonight. In Major League Baseball, the White Sox 4, the Guardians 1. They'll be playing them again today. And the Padres 5, the Cubs 4. They'll be playing the Padres once again today. And the Astros shut out the Twins 5-0. They'll be facing each other again today. In the NHL playoffs, the pursuit of the Stanley Cup, everyone. Well, tight series as well. They're having a great time over there. The Kings lead their series 3-2, and they won last night 5-4 over the Oilers. St. Louis leads their series 3-2, and well, the Wild, they took a bit of a beating, 5-2. The Blues, come on Wild, come on through. Toronto leads their series 3-2, and the Maple Leafs 4, the Lightning 3. Everybody. After an 11-day manhunt, an inmate who escaped an Alabama jail has been captured and is back behind bars. Of course, his jailer killed herself. Bless her heart. And, well, it's a love story. That's what they're reporting on CNN. The U.S. House of Representatives yesterday passed a roughly $40 billion bill to deliver aid to Ukraine as it continues to face Russia's assault. The measure will next need to be passed by the Senate before it can go to President Joe Biden to be signed into law. What do you think about that? $40 billion to Ukraine. 773-763-9278. I want you to meet my morning stars. Meet Andre and Linda and Dave Chewy and others at the Santita Jackson and Friends page and on my YouTube channel, the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. Everybody, please get on over there. Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. Get on over there, everybody. West Virginia and Nebraska held primary elections yesterday, and former President Donald Trump suffered his first big loss of 2022 in Nebraska after his chosen candidate for governor in the Republican primary lost to the state's party choice. But he fared better in West Virginia, where he has a strong hold, everybody, where his pick in a hotly contested GOP House primary cruised to victory in a battle of Republican incumbents. And indeed, his winner said that he might go after Joe Manchin in 2024. So we'll see how this goes. The national average price for regular gasoline soared to a new record high at $4.37 a gallon. Why don't you call me and let me know how you're faring with that? Senator Sanders has said that the GOP ended the filibuster to pack the Supreme Court, so Dems must end it to save abortion rights. There will be a law that will be voted on. It's not expected to pass, that would codify women's reproductive rights. In the meantime, Maine Senator Susan Collins, who said Kavanaugh, candidates, they were candidates for the Supreme Court, Kavanaugh and Gorsuch, they lied to her. She's upset. She called the cops over a sidewalk chalk message asking her to support abortion rights. And many people are now calling on her to call for their impeachment. She said that many groups are saying clearly they were caught in a lie. So should they be impeached? Think about that. In the meantime, in the wake of this rollback, hundreds of bills targeting LGBTQ plus people are under consideration nationwide, according to the Human Rights Campaign. This year alone, everybody, 17 bills that discriminate against LGBTQ plus people have been signed into law in 10 states. We haven't talked about that enough. More than 335 bills targeting LGBTQ plus people are under consideration in the state legislatures of 36 states. Pastor Vicki Johnson, we're going to have to talk about that. And we also need to talk about this iron grip on the market by monopolies that are controlling this baby formula shortage. Did you know that just four companies control 90% of the baby formula? something's not right here. Something is not right here. Parents are desperately looking for baby formula. Newborns cannot drink water. Their systems are too tender for that. Something that we need to look at. Everybody, go on over to the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. Please get over there because I want to hear from you today. Pastor Vicky, we need some good news.
Amen. Good morning, Santita. And good morning to all of the morning stars and friends. There is good news. I can recall as a little girl how we would have testifying service at church. The adults would stand as moved by the Spirit to share varying experiences. They would tell how they were sick from different ailments and God healed them. They would tell how their children were excelling in school. They would talk about promotions on jobs and career changes. They would tell how they came into some money. They told of loved ones who passed away and how they were struggling to make it. Some shared simple testimonies of being grateful for being clothed in their right mind and having the activities of their limbs. Or how about their testimonies of how their hearts were beating right on time, Minister Bonnie? Yes, they would tell it, and there would be spontaneous singing of songs, shouting and praising God.
Yes, yes.
It is our tradition to testify, to tell our stories, and boy, do we have stories to tell. Telling your story can be encouragement to someone else. Telling your story can relieve your burdens and take pressure off of you. Telling your story can make a difference. Telling your story keeps your history alive and allows the names of your ancestors to live although they are gone. Your story might not be turned into a Hollywood movie, but it is worth telling. Don't be shy. Just tell it. In the 66th number of Psalm and the 16th verse, it says, "Come and hear, all ye that fear God, and I will declare what he has done for my soul." Hearing the stories of others has certainly blessed my life, and I'm sure it has blessed yours too. Don't be shy. Just tell it. If you will do this, and I hope that you will, then to me, it's good news.
Amen to that. Because tell it. Because what did Tremaine saying? Thank you for the words of Walter Hawkins. Someone is worse off than you. Be grateful. Be grateful. Be grateful. And just tell it because everybody knows it anyway. Because you did it with somebody. How about that? Or to somebody. I don't know. But I want to give a special shout out to someone you and I know, because we grew up with all of the great musical acts. And this coming through push, they would come and be supportive. Shalimar's looking at us today. Carolyn Griffey, my sister, I love her. We have some stories. I love you, girl. I love you, girl. When are you all coming to Chicago, Carolyn? You need to be on my show one day. That's right. They are touring. Now, they spend a lot of time overseas, but Shalimar is incredibly popular. I mean, I don't want to be the last to know, dancing in the streets. Girl, please don't get me started. And we just thank God for Dick Griffey and the sound of Los Angeles Records. Of course, he founded that with Don Cornelius. It was Soul Train Records, and it was Sound of Los Angeles Records. And they gave us Babyface in L.A. And so they shaped the sound of the 90s. That's what he ended up doing. And now Carolyn is carrying on her father's tradition. And she is the leader of Shalimar. I'm so excited. I love you, Carolyn. That's my girl. But you are worshiping in person and virtually. Tell us where we can see you and how we can get there.
Well, you can come to St. Thomas Lutheran Church at 8000 South Jeffrey Boulevard, Chicago, Illinois, or you can tune in on Facebook Live on Sundays at 11:45 a.m. on 1 hour of power, and we are still masked. Still masked.
Thank you, because so many people are not masked, and I'm just going to leave that alone. But when you come into my place, I have a mask waiting for you. I have my arm extended. You can put it on. So, and there's no fight. People are really, really nice about it. But I get it because of the messaging that we've gotten. I love you so much, Pastor Vicki Johnson. 1 hour of power, everybody. Go to 80th and Jeffrey. Oh, I love you. Thank you. I know saying Santita is hard for you, but that's okay. Because she's told me ever since she was a teenager and I was a child. So there you go. She's like, calling you Santita is difficult. But I love you, Pastor Johnson. Everybody, of course, she's one of the few women in the country to pastor her church, St. Thomas Lutheran Church, 80th and Jeffrey. You will be blessed to get over there on Sunday for your hour of power. Came across a very interesting study, Dr. Shanina Knighton, research scholar, infection preventionist, a professor at Case Western Reserve University, and a nurse. A newly released list graded over 3,000 hospitals across the United States, including the 116 that we have in the state of Illinois. And some of the most high-profile hospitals in Chicago got a grade of C or F. I mean, it is like unbelievable. And, and this is right in your space. They were docked for having infection present, problems with surgery, dangerous objects left in patients' bodies. Whoa. Before you go to a hospital, do you need to grade them and check them, Dr. Knighton? This is something you've been talking about for a long time. You need to be careful.
Yes. Yeah, you can grade them, but I think it kind of goes back into what we talked about last week with the stroke, that somebody might have a grade of an F but might have a great stroke center. So you have to understand, how are the services in terms of what it is you're going for. No, this is not surprising to me. It's not anything new. In fact, we have what's called, a consumer survey or along those lines of where people, after they have received care in a medical center, they get a survey and they're asked about how their care was. When we talk about metrics, when it comes down to instruments left in, when we're talking about infections that are related to, going into the hospital, not having an infection, but then getting one when you're there. It all still comes down to one of the number one factors in hospitals that ends up harming patients and killing patients, and that is infections. So you have infections, you might have medical errors, may have medication errors, and I've been bringing this up for the beginning of time is because these were the things that were turned off at the beginning of the pandemic. The quality metrics were turned off because they figured people would not be able to keep up with them due to staffing. But in my opinion, that was more of a reason to keep the quality metrics in place to make sure that we could at least gauge how far off we were becoming. When we're talking about instruments being left in patients, we're talking about a problem that went away in the early 2000s. Somebody leaving a gauze in a patient, somebody leaving, some sort of food inside of a patient, stuff like that. That should be behind us now. We got way too many technologies, way too many checklists, and way too many protocols where stuff like that shouldn't happen anymore. But because those quality metrics were turned off, because we are training the next generation of staff and had to train them in the middle of a pandemic, unfortunately, there are going to be providers that are not going to know how to best care for you in a safe manner. They may know how to get the procedure done. They may know how to do things, but you have to question whether or not they're competent enough to make sure that they can decrease infections. No, this is not looking at our medical community any crazy. It's not saying that people are not learning. It's not saying that people are here with the right reasons. It's just saying, are they equipped with the right tools? The other piece of that is, Santita, is that we have to remember that even during this time, yes, people are still going to the hospitals, and we at one point had it to where if you were a healthcare provider but you were asymptomatic, you were still allowed to care for patients. But something that I can say from the beginning of time is that if you're asymptomatic because you are vaccinated, or you are asymptomatic because you had COVID and you have now a milder strain, you are still a carrier and still at risk for transmitting the bug to somebody else. So this is still happening inside of hospital facilities, inside of healthcare facilities where people may not necessarily go in with COVID, but may end up with COVID. Same thing with infections. People may not go in with an infection, but may end up with an infection. This has been why, since the beginning of time, I have placed a heavy emphasis on patient infection prevention management, meaning that patients are aware that germs exist. Patients are aware of how important their own hand hygiene is. Because if you're relying on healthcare workers who are overstressed and too busy to clean their hands to protect you, if you are concerned about environmental cleaning, who is too stressed and too busy to clean every single surface in your room, adding the layer of you cleaning your own hands just means that it decreases the risk even further of you picking up any germs from the surfaces or directly from your healthcare providers. And we know that patients, because we are all patients, even I am a patient, we're going to touch the bedside tables, we're going to touch the rails, we're going to touch the IV pumps, everything that our healthcare providers come in contact with. And so when we look at infections and we look at these scores, whether we're talking about a C, whether we're talking about an F, you ask yourself what is going on within that facility regarding staffing, what is going on in that facility regarding quality metrics, also what is going on in terms of workplace morale. We are talking about a population of individuals. I'm talking about nurses, doctors, who at one point were told that it was mandatory that they had to be vaccinated, and because they had already put their health on the line, had already been sick, felt like they had built up an immunity against COVID, said, I don't want to be vaccinated because I know that it's not going to prevent transmission, it's just going to prevent severity. And they felt because they were working in those environments enough that they were protected. Well, a lot of these individuals lost their jobs. So right now in healthcare, there is a high turnover. We're seeing a high population of travel staff that are traveling around to care for people. So when you look at multiple factors that are going on here, it is a complex problem that doesn't just have one solution, but it does have more than one problem that we need to carefully evaluate and ask ourselves, are we doing as much as we possibly can?
Dr. Shanina Knighton gives us so much to think about, everybody. This study that shows that some of the top hospitals in Chicago and quite frankly around the country are getting grades of F and C, but a lot of them are getting A's. I mean, but all of our healthcare workers, whether they are working in hospitals, whether they're traveling now, they've had their backs against the wall, because you made the point. Probably one of the highest percentage, certainly, of workers who have not gotten the shots are the healthcare workers, and they feel disrespected. They feel overburdened. I mean, if you go on the floor of a hospital, many of us have not been able to do that for close to 3 years now. I mean, the nurses' station is not that big, and patients can go into crisis at any time. We need to really, the first thing I did, Dr. Knighton, when I came out of major surgery, about 18 years ago now, my parents were standing at the edge of my bed, and my nurse, because apparently they knew that I was coming to, and the first thing I did was thank her for being there. Because, and maybe I'm sensitive to that because my grandmother worked in a hospital, and she was the person she worked in food services. So the person who'd come and deliver your meal to you, that was my grandmother. And that was her job at the VA for more than 30 years. And I think about that. I mean, these are hardworking people who in many respects have not been listened to. So it's something for us to think about. So don't grade our healthcare professionals. Don't give them an A, B, C, or D. I think this really looks at the conditions under which they are working. And thank you for making us sensitive to that. Everybody, Delaware State's lacrosse team, it's an historically black school. The whole team, the girls, were stopped. It's upset the governor of the state of Delaware. It's upset the president of the school. We're going to talk about that with our legal eagles on the Santita Jackson Show. Back in just a minute. Dr. Knighton.
Morning.
Girl, I just love you to pieces. You know, and I've been talking about people being asymptomatic carriers, and people kind of roll their eyes. I'm like, you know, that is real. I'm not mad at anybody. You know, oh, you know, I've just, oh, oh. You know, people have not been given the right messages, Dr. Knighton, about any of this. You know, they have not been told. Yeah. So when you talk about being an asymptomatic carrier, they look at you like, oh, what's?
Yeah, well, we can't say that. It's not a matter of they haven't been told. People tend to forget it because this was a message that was early on in the pandemic when they were telling everybody not to go out and get tested. Mm-hmm. And they were talking about the fact that the majority of individuals were asymptomatic. And this is before there was the big push for the vaccines. Mm-hmm. And then the vaccines then reduced clinically relevant symptoms, and people are back being asymptomatic again. And so I said, this is kind of like chasing a hamster's wheel because we back at square one. And while I understand the goal is to decrease severity, it never was going to stop spread. And I think that's the problem that I had, and I still continue to have, and why I say there aren't enough infection preventionists at the table that's emphasizing logic here. Meaning like,
can you turn that down a little bit, Matt? Thank you, honey. I'm sorry, what were you saying now?
No, I said like germ theory. Like germ theory is the same, meaning like in order for somebody to get sick, of course, like the germ has to be present. It has to have somewhere in order for it to be able to get inside the body. For COVID, that's eyes, mouth, and nose. And then you got to have a vulnerable person, right, in order for it to be able to multiply and actually become an infection. And so when I think about the issues that we have right now, it's just that people are being educated just based off of regular germs. And then they don't understand that, like, how do you kill a germ? Meaning, like, a germ, I'm talking about, like, a harmful germ. All germs are not bad, meaning, like, yes, there are those that we need to build up our immune system, but then there are those that are out here that will kill you. Oh. And there's this notion that, like, yes, everybody should get germs or babies should get germs to build up their immune system. That's fine, but adults really need to understand if some germs out there that you get as an adult, they very well may take you out.
Well, you know, we've got to think about, but that's why the education is so important. And I am everyone. And, you know, just have to let everyone know, people have been looking for Dr. Deb. Dr. Deb, you know, as you know, she is about to become the dean of the School of Global Public Health at NYU. So she is commuting between Michigan, Johns Hopkins in Baltimore, and New York. She's having to do a lot of that, but she's with us.
I have attorneys Jones and Fancher on the line.
Fantastic.
Attorney Hoffler is currently
traveling
on an airplane. So
okay. All right. Okay. So, well, let me say hello to them, to these handsome gents, my little fire starters, my big fire starters. Attorney Fancher, Attorney Jones, how are you this morning? I'm so glad to hear your voices. So glad to hear your voices. How are you, Attorney Jones? Now, you see, we're doing your story. You thought I didn't pay attention to you. But you know what's interesting? Okay. Dr. Knighton, you going to listen to us? Oh, okay. Did she drop? Okay. Okay, no worries. It's not bad math. You're all right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show, Wednesday, May 11th, 2022. We're going to be talking about men and vasectomies as we're looking at reproductive rights, as we're looking at contraception. What would happen if men were mandated to get vasectomies? What about that? I mean, think about that. Think about that. I mean, in all over the world, men really recoil in horror at the idea of a vasectomy. Not all, because more and more men are looking to get vasectomies. The searches for vasectomies shot up by 250% in the immediate aftermath of the leaking of that Supreme Court document. So we're going to be talking about that at the top of the hour. But right now, let's talk about what happened with Delaware State. Delaware State is an historically black college, and they do a lot of great work there. And they have a lacrosse team that was traveling um, uh, north on I-95 in Liberty County, Georgia, just outside of Savannah. And they were returning home after playing their final game of the season. And the bus driver was initially told that he was traveling in the left lane, that he was in the wrong lane, but he was pulled over. And just to make a long story short, because I'm going to toss it to you, Attorney Darryl Jones, the governor has gotten involved. The governor of the state of Delaware. They're like, you harassed our students. The president of the university has said, this was a humiliating experience for these young ladies. And I think that we need to also understand the politics of lacrosse, the income generating sports at all these schools. The HBCUs and what are known as the PWIs, the predominantly white institutions, are football and basketball. People go see baseball, but football and basketball, those are the money drivers. As you well know, it's a billion-dollar industry. That having been said, the elite schools, the elite sport at all of these schools, lacrosse, the big men on campus, if you will, at Princeton, at Harvard, at Yale, at Vanderbilt, at the big Southern schools, at Alabama, at Ole Miss, they play lacrosse. That's it. That's the elite sport. So it's kind of interesting because more and more HBCUs are getting lacrosse teams. They're getting competitive in the space. But you brought this story to me, Attorney Darryl Jones. What happened here?
Well, Santita, this was just an incredible story. What happened to the Delaware State women's lacrosse team? They had competed earlier in the state of Florida in a game they were playing, and they were coming back to Delaware. And on the way back, the bus driver, they're all on with the bus that's clearly demarcated from Delaware State, etc. The bus driver's in the left-hand lane, and he's driving along, and he gets pulled over by Georgia, Liberty County Police in Georgia, for a minor traffic infraction. After he's pulled over, rather than simply issuing a citation for this minor traffic infraction, what the sheriffs then do in Liberty County is that they board the bus. They start saying to the girls, to the lacrosse players that are there, that if they find any marijuana or anything, that their chaperones are going to be disappointed. And they ask the question of the young ladies that are on the bus, does anyone have any drugs on them? You need to speak up now. We're going to search all your luggage. And following that, the young ladies see all of these other sheriffs pull up. They see drug dogs pull up to sniff the bus that they're on. This is for a minor traffic infraction where, the young ladies aren't accused of doing anything wrong. Following that, the officers then proceed to go to the luggage carrier beneath the bus and to pull the young lady's luggage off the bus to start searching it to see if they can find any illegal contraband. And, spoiler alert, they didn't find anything illegal that was there. And, what then results from that is, the officers end up releasing, but these young ladies are traumatized. Mm-hmm. One of the young ladies that's on the bus was actually the cousin and had just come through the story, dealing with the death of her cousin Elijah McLean, mm-hmm. Who was the young man who was the violinist who was killed by the police. So it was re-traumatizing for her. It was traumatizing for all of these young black girls young black ladies that were on the bus. So this is what happens in this situation. And so the president of Delaware State certainly has called and made a statement, certainly decrying the actions of the Liberty County Sheriff's Office stands by what they did and said that this was not racial profiling. Anybody else called it racial profiling. Had this been a bus full of young white girls that were returning to the University of X, a predominantly PWI, a predominantly white institution, I'm quite confident that there would not have been a search that went on. There would have been the minor traffic infraction, and they would have been released. That's not what happened here. This is just a blatant disparity in the treatment of these young black ladies that they were clearly lacrosse players. There's no question about that. They were clearly college students. There was no question about that. So, that's the situation of what has happened here, Santita.
Call us at 773-763-9278. What do you think about this? I mean, because one of the things that I'd love your thoughts about this, Attorney Mark Fancher, National Conference of Black Lawyers, but you are also a civil libertarian. And I want to know what your thoughts are about this, because as I watched the video of this search, look, I'm not going to say I'm paranoid. I've just seen enough malfeasance to know that all cops are not honest and all cops are not dishonest. You have you have rot, and you have some people trying to fight the rot on the force. I would wonder if, my goodness, is somebody going to plant something on me? I mean, how could they go to these young kids and say, basically, you better not have any drugs. That's what I'm looking for. What is that about?
Well, the thing that many people don't understand about racial profiling, even many people in law enforcement, is that racial profiling often happens when officers are not necessarily raging bigots. It's not always the case that police officers are consciously racist, or that they're looking to try and in some way target people of color. But because of their implicit biases, because of stereotypes, because of things that many people just presume about race, they engage in it sometimes unconsciously. And you add to that the fact that police officers very often fall into treating their work as something in the nature of a sport. How many arrests can I make? How many big busts can I make within my shift? And when they do that, those kinds of things drive them to look for situations where they've got a strong hunch that they're going to be able to, make the kind of big arrests that they're hoping to make during that shift. And they are required, the Constitution limits their ability to just make stops arbitrarily. They can't just go on fishing expeditions and just stop cars and stop buses and stop vehicles just because they want to see what's in them. Before a car for a traffic violation or a bus or anything else, there has to be probable cause. Probable cause for them to believe that a traffic violation has occurred. And when they don't see that type of traffic violation off the bat, many times what they will do is they will trail a vehicle that they want to stop, and they'll follow them long enough until the driver makes some type of an error, makes some type of, does something that technically violates the traffic law. And all of us do that. Every time that we get in a car, it's almost impossible for any driver to drive for an extended period of time without doing something that is technically illegal. Maybe we make a turn without putting on our signal. Maybe we don't come to a complete stop at a stop sign. There's something that we all do. And when officers do this with the objective not of stopping the person for a traffic violation, but because they want an excuse to stop them so that they can look for something else, so that they can try and find something else that they can arrest them for, then that's called a pretext stop. They use the traffic violation as a pretext for stopping the vehicle, which is what it appears happened here. We don't know that for certain, but in all likelihood, this bus driver was stopped because of the, whatever the alleged driving infraction was, because they wanted to see what was going on inside of that bus. And even if they're not consciously making the evaluation or the analysis that we're stopping these people because it's a bus full of black people, then on some level they're thinking, if we stop them and if we search them, then because black people always have drugs, because it's just known that black people, are in possession of some type of illegal narcotic, when we search them, we're bound to find drugs on somebody. And then we win the little game that we play about trying to make lots of arrests. We got a whole bus full of people who probably all have their little stashes of marijuana or cocaine or whatever it may be, and we're going to be big heroes around headquarters because we busted this bus full of drug carriers. And the fact is, they've done studies that show that statistically, it's the use of drugs and possession of drugs is at least even across racial groups, and in some cases, whites frequently possess them more often. But the problems with this stop don't stop there. Not only have they engaged in what is arguably a pretextual stop of this bus, but now once they've stopped the vehicle, the Constitution, the Fourth Amendment says that once you stop the driver, that you can detain them only long enough to take care of what's done with respect to that particular traffic violation. So if there was an illegal lane change or whatever it is they accuse the driver of, the longest that they can keep that bus on the side of the road is as long as it takes for them to write a ticket for that or to issue a warning. And then the bus has to be allowed to go on its way. You're not allowed to keep the vehicle on the side of the road longer than it takes to do that. And in this case, it seems like they kept them there long enough for them to get on the bus, which they're not necessarily allowed to do, and to start questioning people, to have canines come out and sniff and all of that kind of thing, and then to conduct a search, which is, a detention for much longer than the Constitution allows. This from beginning to end has all kinds of problems, constitutionally. And, the fact that the law enforcement agency has sort of, dug in its heels and doubled down on its position, is surprising, but then perhaps not, given who they are and where they are.
What is next? I mean, you now have the president of Delaware State who, has registered a complaint. You have the governor of the state of Delaware who has expressed displeasure at what happened. And you have the police, if you will, first you, Darryl, and then you, Mark. The police are standing their ground, if you will, to borrow that phrase. They don't see that they've done anything wrong, Attorney Darryl Jones. And that, to me, Matt up at AM 950 radio in Minneapolis, St. Paul, is saying, I don't trust them. Them cops used to plant things on my friends back in the South, West Philly, his hometown. Look, let me tell you, I told one of my friends that when I was living in New York, I said, when the police come for you, I said, you're going to get pulled over. Black guy, nice car, really big musician. I'm going to get him on the show one day. We went to high school together. I said, Nay, we're from Chicago. And people can plant things on you. And he said, like a week later, he was pulled over, driving across the bridge into Manhattan. Then he said, that was the first thing that came to my mind. And he said, look, I don't have anything back there, and nothing better be back there when I leave. I mean, when you all leave. Because the way the stop happened, it just didn't feel right, Attorney Jones. And I just have so many questions, because it's like, what do you do when you're in that situation? I mean, there's one adult or two or three or four who are authority figures. What do you do? How do you even protect these young ladies or these young people if something like this happens?
And Santita, you're absolutely right. It's just incredibly upsetting. And I know that Attorney Center had asked the question, with regards to the minor traffic violation. In the state of Georgia, it's illegal for a bus to travel in the left-hand lane. And that's all this bus was doing, was traveling in the left lane. That was the infraction that they were pulling us over for. The other piece that, that is really, really upsetting is understanding that, when I say they went through these ladies' personal items, I mean, they went through their underwear. They went through everything that was in their bags. They had the dogs go and sniff their underwear and sniff the clothes and pull their stuff out and had it on the side of the road. This is what these young ladies were going through. And this is what, when I said that the officers knew precisely what they were doing, and they were all white officers, there's 6 or 7 of them, and one of the officers is heard on the video saying, I know that this is a bus of women's lacrosse players and that you all are athletes. So it wasn't even a question of them knowing what they were, or not knowing what they were doing. They knew precisely what they were doing. And, the question then becomes, if you find yourself in that situation, what do you do? Well, a lot of things that are being said right now, and certainly, the kudos do go out to the coaches, to the chaperones, and to the players who did handle themselves with great dignity and did not, get up in their face and make it a much worse situation than it already was. That being said, it's unfortunate that we have to be in a position where we have to handle ourselves with dignity when we're being indignified by these police officers in this particular situation. So the answer to the question is, because you're on a dark street, as they were, you're in a dark area, you're on a country road, you're many times, many of us will be by ourselves or with a limited amount of people. You gotta survive the moment, and that's what I believe the students and the coaches were doing at that moment, being certain that they survived the moment, given the number of officers who were there, given the tenseness that was in that situation. They were trying to keep everyone calm to survive the moment, and that's what I would advise anyone to do, is to try to keep your calm to survive the moment, and then come back, whether it's internal affairs of the police department, other actions that you can take civilly, whatever those steps are, is to then go after it that way. But you got to first survive that moment. Otherwise, they can write the narrative how they want to write the narrative, and you're responding to it.
Well, as speaking of surviving the moment, I think in this moment we're learning that you need to film, even though many police officers don't want you to do that. Attorney Jones and Attorney Fancher, you need to pull out that phone and start filming, live stream if you can. I mean, seriously, because I just watched this, and it was very disturbing to me. I said, I don't know because they knew that this was a lacrosse team. These girls were. We don't know if they had been followed, as they are leaving, as they're trying to get out of the state of Georgia. I mean, there's just so much that ran through my mind, Attorney Fancher, and I don't trust. There is a real tension between the citizens and the police nowadays. A real tension that has only continued to grow in the aftermath of the George Floyd murder. And I'm just wondering, we've got to survive the moment, but what else? We must survive the moment, but what else in surviving the moment, what should you do? Because somebody's got to be a witness to what happened to them. And it seems like the best witness is your phone.
Yeah. Well, in addition to that, and Attorney Jones is absolutely correct about surviving the moment. Just stay cool and, try and get through it. But there are also a few other technical things that people should do. I don't know exactly what happened on this bus in terms of what the occupants said to the officers. But when officers are attempting to search, most of them will ask you, can I search? Can I come into your vehicle? Can I search your things? The response to that is, officer, you may have a tough job, but I don't consent to searches. And if they did not consent to a search, if the occupants, if the team did not consent to the search that took place, then in the absence of probable cause that would suggest to them that they needed to search right away, or in the absence of a warrant, then they should not have conducted the search. And that becomes an important thing, especially for drivers of their personal vehicles, because even though you may not use drugs, you may not possess drugs, you never know who might have been in your car and who might have had something fall out of their pocket and it's wedged in between the folds of the seat or something like that. Once you consent to search, then the officers are able to come in and start looking for things. And if they find it, then it's on you, regardless of whether you put it there or not. So that's the first thing. But beyond that, to the extent that there were illegal searches that took place during this incident, then it does open the door for challenges, by way of civil litigation if it comes to that. But more immediately, as the governor is weighing in, as the president of the university is weighing in, as all of these people are doing it, then their communications, in my view, should not necessarily be with the sheriff or the head of the law enforcement agency that's responsible for that. If they're given every indication that they don't plan to budge, what they need to do is to have some intelligent conversations with the county's lawyer and to outline for them the potential exposure in terms of dollars that it's going to cost the county when lawsuits start coming from every single member of this lacrosse team, when all of them are suing and they're looking at big damages for each of them. Then once you start to talk money with someone who's responsible and who's willing to listen to a discussion about the practical business aspects of this kind of thing, then things sometimes start to happen. They begin to back down a little bit, and they begin to talk more reasonably about a way to try and make things right. So I think that that's where the conversation should be. The conversation should not be with some knucklehead sheriff who doesn't know which end is up, but with somebody within the government structure who really understands what the implications are of this type of stop.
Amen. You got to get sued. It's the money. It's the money. And it should be the reputations. Effie Rolfe had not heard about this story. Effie, I've posted it on my Facebook page, on the Santita Jackson and Friends page. But I would like for you, before you go, your closing thoughts, 2 minutes, Attorney Darryl Jones, if you could recap the story inside of your closing remarks for people who have not heard this. I know if this were a lacrosse team, the traditional lacrosse team, white young ladies, we'd be hearing more about this story. But Black girls, Black women are invisible. And these are young Black women. These are kids. These are kids. Can you recap the story as you close out these remarks?
Oh, absolutely, Santita. And it's a bus of our young ladies aged 17 to 2021 that are returning to Delaware State University. They're part of the Delaware State University's women's lacrosse team. They are on the bus. They're coming from from Florida back to Delaware. Their bus driver, who is also African American, is traveling through Georgia in the left-hand lane. He is pulled over because he's in the left-hand lane in the state of Georgia, which apparently is a minor traffic infraction. After the bus is pulled over in Liberty County, Georgia, the officers then board the bus. And after boarding the bus, they say to the young ladies that if anyone has anything illegal, you need to tell us now because we're going to find it. Subsequently, they then call drug dogs to come to sniff out the bus. Prior to the drug dogs getting there, they pull off all of the luggage of all the young ladies that are there. They go through their personal belongings. They go through their underwear. They have the dogs go and sniff through their luggage and find nothing. Nothing illegal is found on these young ladies at all. After that occurs, the team is then released. The officer that actually boarded the bus is heard on the video because the young ladies had their phones, so they recorded it. The officer is heard saying that, I know that this is a lacrosse team. I know this is a lacrosse team and that you're college students. The whole incident occurs over a 20-minute period where their stuff is being rifled through and gone through. And that's the situation that these young ladies have now dealt with. And it should be understood that, at the HBCUs, they're just coming through and still coming through the bomb threats that have been pulled into many of the HBCUs around the country. Absolutely. So this is the backdrop that these ladies then run into in the state of Georgia with regards to their bus being stopped and all that then occurs. So that's where we are with this situation, Santita. And let me tell you, I'm so proud of the ladies, the way that they've stood up and were able to keep the grace as this went through. But I'm more proud of the fact that they're going to be responding, standing up, and fighting what has occurred and the injustice in this situation.
Amen to that. Amen to that. And they need to stand up, and we need to support Delaware State. And look into this story because it deserves, and tell people about it. Share it, everybody. Like and share the show, everybody, on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. Like and share the show on the Santita Jackson and Friends Facebook page. Let's talk about men and vasectomies and reproductive freedom. Should men be mandated to get vasectomies? Let's talk about it on the Santita Jackson Show. Okay. Mark, thank you for being with us today.
My pleasure as always.
Oh, my goodness.
Continue a great day.
Oh, hey, you too. My love to your family.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
God bless you. Thank you. All right. Here we go, everybody. I've got these live reads. How you doing, Darryl?
Doing great, Santita. Doing great. Having my cup of tea, getting myself together.
Okay. Oh my goodness. I've got to do a story on, I did not realize that 4 companies control 90% of the baby formula that is made. So when they're talking, 4 companies, 4. Abbott, Reckitt, Nestle, and Perrigo. Nearly 90% of the U.S. baby formula. So while these parents are looking for this, all these shortages, I'm like, look, I don't trust all of this. I really don't, and I am going to say that I don't. Like, you mean to tell me you all can't figure out formula? And and I've never had a child, but I do know enough to know that you can't give a newborn water. You can't do that. There's systems that's intended for that.
Key online, I'm going to put them through to you right now.
And what they're doing. I mean, it's just like, you mean to tell me we're missing everything is just the supply chain is just messed up in all the whole world. Really? Give me a break. I know you all did not plan that poorly. This is crazy. Well, I can only imagine what these parents are feeling right now. It's just like, what? You can't feed your baby? What is that about? It's crazy. It's just absolutely crazy. So anyway, there we go. Dwight McKee, how are you?
Good morning. How are you?
Oh, great. We've got attorney Darryl Jones with you today.
What's up, Darryl?
How's it going, Dwight?
Okay.
Thank you, everything.
Okay. And Elon Musk is going to put Donald Trump back on Twitter. Yay. They shouldn't have taken him off in the first place, quite frankly. That's my thought. Everybody, I just think all you did was make him bigger, more relevant. That is the craziest thing. All this shutting people down, and we're talking about free speech in the United States, just sounds crazy. And you all made him bigger. Yes, you did. Made him more relevant. It's crazy.
Santita, you wonder if that's a business decision as well, because they made him so much bigger. To make the decision to bring him back on will probably bring more followers and more subscribers to Twitter.
It's going to bring people back. That's just nuts. It's not even nuts. I'm just wondering what the end game is here. Because no one gets billions of dollars of loans unless they are in. But there's something about Donald Trump that is also out. So, there's a whole lot going on here that, quite frankly, is above my pay grade. I've just got the paranoia of the civil rights movement working with me. Because, so many of the things that we've seen um, just in my own lifetime. But all of this is, of course, it's a corporate decision, but it's also, I think it's very dangerous when you start trying to shut people down. Even if I don't agree with you, keep talking. Let the place, or the world of ideas, bring the truth to light. If it's disinformation, whatever disinformation is, if it's a lie, enough. And all these folks who want to shut down Russia Today, all of that, I just think that is a mistake. I mean, even when you're a pundit, in the media today, that there's some things you cannot say. So do we have free speech, Darryl? If you want to come back the next day, there's some things you just can't say. You gotta make that calculation. That's ridiculous. And people are watching. And they know that this stuff is way off. Ugh. So, hey. And who is Elon Musk anyway? Well, his father, I think, owned emerald mines over in South Africa. He owned some gem mines. So he's from a wealthy family. So he's not some unknown quantity, interestingly enough. That's not what he is. So whew, it's a lot. It is a lot. So, Matt.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, I'm going to do the Hochberg read just after 7 here, and then I'm going to do the Oak Park read at 7:30 before we bring on Chapearl.
Okay.
Okay.
Copy that.
Thank you so much.
And we have a minute till we're back.
Okay, fantastic. So, okay, gentlemen. Oh, boy. Been a lot. Okay, well, this ought to be interesting. Everybody call us. What do you think about men being required to have vasectomies? What do you think about that? I mean, over in India, one of the most populous, one of those populous places on earth, only 0.3% of men have had vasectomies. Well north of 30% of women have gotten some kind of birth control. And now they're calling these vasectomies are acts of love. It's interesting. Snip, lots of stuff. So I want to hear your thoughts. 773-763-9278. Call me.
Jackson Show.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Santita Jackson Show. WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station here in Chicago. AM, the voice of progressive Minnesota. I want you to meet my morning stars, D-Ray and Laura and Darryl and Linda, on the Santita Jackson and Friends page. Santita Jackson and Friends page. That is my official page. If you want to be my friend, that's where you have to go. And I hope you will be my friend. I hope you'll join me on the Santita Jackson and Friends page and my YouTube channel. Please, everybody, migrate over there. That's where you're supposed to be watching the show. Santita Jackson Show, the Santita Jackson Show over on YouTube. Let's talk about men and vasectomies. What if men were required to get vasectomies? There is pushback on that. There always has been. But vasectomy searches were up 250% since the Roe v. Wade leak. So what's on the minds of men? I want to know what your thoughts are. Call me. What do you think? Would this be a game changer if men were required to get vasectomies? If there was a mandate on that? Call me at 773-763-9278. 773-763-WCPT, 773-763-9278. I want to know what your thoughts are. In Chicago, we're going to have a high of 77 degrees, mostly cloudy. Minneapolis, St. Paul, a high of 80 degrees. Scattered thunderstorms. The Dow closed down 84 points yesterday. The NASDAQ closed up 114 points, and the S&P 500 closed up 9 points. In the NBA playoffs, it's tight. Great basketball, everybody. Miami leads their series 3-2. They won last night, 120 285 over the 76ers. Phoenix, they lead their series 3-2, and they won their game last night 110 to 180 over the Mavericks. And the Bucks and the Celtics are tied 2-2, and they'll be playing one another tonight. In Major League Baseball, the White Sox 4, the Guardians 1. They'll be facing off, the White Sox will, against the Guardians once again today. The Padres 5, the Cubs 4, and the Cubs will be playing the Padres once again today. And the Astros shut out the Twins 5-0. Perhaps the Astros, the Twins will redeem themselves as they play the Astros once again. The Stanley Cup playoffs, everybody. Who's going to get that championship? It's as exciting over there as it is in the NBA. The Kings lead their series 3-2. The Kings last night 5, the Oilers 4. The Blues over the Wilds 5-2. St. Louis leads that series 3-2, and Toronto leads their series 3-2. The Maple Leafs last night 4. The Lightning 3, everybody. Ukraine just got another $40 billion from the United States government. At least that will happen once the Senate passes this measure. It passed easily in the House of Representatives, and if it passes the Senate, it goes on to President Biden, and then they will be delivered $40 billion. West Virginia and Nebraska held primary elections yesterday, and former President Donald Trump suffered his first big loss. And in Nebraska, his chosen candidate lost, but in West Virginia, his chosen candidate won, and he even threatened to run against Joe Manchin. What do you make of that, everybody? Yep. The national average price for regular gasoline soared to a new record high of $4.37 a gallon. How is that impacting you? In the meantime, with reproductive rights, Senator Sanders says the GOP ended the filibuster to pack the Supreme Court, while Democrats must end it to save abortion rights. In the meantime, Senator Susan Collins, who said she was lied to by then nominees Gorsuch and Kavanaugh, and people are now pressuring her to press for impeachment of them for lying to her about their positions on abortion. Well, she called the cops because the sidewalk in front of her house had been marked up with a message for her to support abortion rights. Hundreds of bills in the aftermath of this. We told you it wasn't going to stop here. Hundreds of bills targeting LGBTQ plus people are now in the docket in state legislatures all over the country. 17 bills that discriminate against the LGBTQ plus community have been signed into law in 10 states. More than 335 bills that would negatively impact the LGBTQ community are currently being considered by state lawmakers all across the country in 36 states. Keep your eyes open, everybody, and look at these Illinois hospitals. They're getting grades of F and C. That is what is happening. A, B, C, and D. This is a study that looked at more than 3,000 hospitals across the United States, including 116 in the state of Illinois. Well, they examined infections, problems with surgery, items left inside of patients, for example, after surgery. Well, Northwestern in Chicago got a C. And they're a great hospital. John Strocher got a C. But Advent Health in Glen Oaks and Advent Health in Hinsdale and LaGrange, they all got A's. And Northwest Community Hospital got an A. And Jackson Park Hospital got a C. And Holy Cross Hospital, where my brother Jonathan Jackson was born. First black baby born there, as a matter of fact, got a C. But Dr. Shanina Knighton helped to open our eyes. Of course, she's a registered nurse and an infection preventionist and a professor at Case Western Reserve University and a research clinical scholar. She helped us to see that, these healthcare workers, from doctors to nurses to LPNs and on, including the staff who keep the hospitals clean, they're working under an incredible amount of pressure. And so this is really more of a reflection on administration and how they are maintaining the ecosystems of those hospitals. So please keep that in mind. I want you to call me at 773-763-9278. Let's talk about these vasectomies. Everybody, Team Hochberg wants you to know that if you're purchasing a new home, refinancing your existing home, securing a VA loan or reverse mortgage, or if you need to clean up your credit or establish credit, call them at 855-56-DAVID, 855-56-DAVID, or 56david.com. Get that free consultation. Tell them exactly what is going on with you. Tell them your story. They've heard it all. And they can help work out things for you as they did for Miss Sharon, 72, retired, living on her pension, which was not covering her bills, living in a $300,000 house. That's why she was trying to get it refinanced. She called an online lender. They did not help her. But that is not what happened when she reached out to Team Hochberg. When they worked out her issues, she saved over $340 a month, which is more than $4,000 a year, and she was able to refinance her home. That could happen for you. Call them at 855-56-DAVID, 855-56-DAVID, or 56david.com, 56david.com. Your problems, your financial freedom is but a phone call away. Give them a call, everybody. All right, everybody, what about vasectomies? What about vasectomies? This is something that makes a lot of men very, very squeamish. I'm not a man, so I certainly want to hear about that. Indeed, I was reading a Washington Post article. Men all across the country are getting vasectomies, quote, as an act of love, helping their partners to manage their families. So what do you think about that? In the wake of last week's leak about the overturning of Roe v. Wade, vasectomy searches are up 250%. Wow. What do you think about that? Why do you think that is? Why do you think that is? What's on the mind of men? And what would happen? Dwight McKee, let me pitch this to you. Of course, we've got attorney Darryl Jones, chair of the Transformative Justice Coalition, and Dwight McKee, noted sociologist, National Action Network member. Indeed, he's one of the right-hand men of Reverend Al Sharpton, founding member of Operation Push, founding board member, as a matter of fact. What do you think would happen? You said, the interesting thought is something else. It would involve men, mandates, and vasectomies. Dwight, why don't you speak to that?
Yeah, I was taking a position the other day that the issue so much is not the vasectomies, it's forced vasectomies. Is that if there was a law that left to the states the right to declare that a man after a certain amount of time was forced to have a vasectomy, you see a whole new conversation about states' laws, states' rights, and independence of ideas for the people who are looking to have control over their own bodies. It's very easy for men who are not involved in the pregnancies, who tend to not have the direct responsibility to raise and feed the child. It's very easy for them to be self-righteous and to tell a woman that you must have a baby at all costs, because I, as a man, have a moral position on this, even in your behalf. My morality exceeds your right to choose. But if the shoe was another foot, and a man was required by law to have a vasectomy, you hear a whole other discussion about states' rights, about right to life, about, who's in charge. And, you can take it to the next level. If Christians, once you converted to Christianity, if you're required to then be circumcised, and you would not see a whole other church evolving. You would not see such a cavalier approach to conversion. It would take this Christianity much more seriously, and because now they're paying the cost for that. I think that one of the reasons that men are so self-righteous in this is because they're not carrying the load as women are. And it's very chauvinistic for men who have nothing at risk to assume the spoil authority about somebody else's body.
What do you think, everybody? Call us at 773-763-9278. 773-763-9278. What if men had to shoulder more of the responsibility? What if they really literally had to, if they had skin in the game? How would that change the conversation? Call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-9278. Indeed, of course, this is Legal Q&A with CK. She is traveling today, but you know what? We talked about this, and oh, we just decided to bring our regular crew on and to have this discussion anyway. Attorney Darryl Jones, what would happen if men had more skin in the game? What if there was a mandate on vasectomies after a certain age, after a certain number of children, and on and on and on and on? Because we hear these horror stories, Darryl, all the time, or should I say more frequently than we should, about these doctors who take it upon themselves to impregnate their patients. There's a big story about that right now. Does that? That is like, that's not only unhealthy and crazy and sick, it's a power trip, right? Now he's got dozens of kids out here. But what would happen if there was a mandate on vasectomies?
And Santita, that's it's a great question. And as Dwight was speaking, I recall that in the state of Pennsylvania, I think it was last year, there was a representative there, Chris Rapp, that actually introduced legislation. It was purity, but it was real legislation that was introduced that said that it was going to mandate that when men turned 40, I think was the age, that they were required to get a vasectomy, or after they had 3 children, whichever occurred first, that they will be required to get this vasectomy. And the response from the public was just overwhelmingly against it, right? At the whole argument about, who controls my body? Why should the state be involved in making decisions for me? And all of this came out. And as Dwight was laying it out, he's precisely correct, because this is the question that is now being asked in light of the Dobbs decision that's pending. Who controls the decision? Who should have that power to make decisions regarding your body? And it should be you. And I think that if men were required to have vasectomies at a specific age or after a number of children, that you would see an incredible fight against that. And and it goes. One of the issues that was being raised is, why do we think there's such a great increase in the number of searches on Google, et cetera, with people looking up vasectomies as a form of family planning, and in terms of what's happening now with the abortion movement from the Supreme Court. And certainly, if you were planning a family, you're in the family, and you're making decisions on when you want to have children, when you're able to financially support having children, all of these become very relevant issues. And what's happening with the Supreme Court and their decisions has a direct impact on this. So the reason that I think that we're seeing the increase in the searches regarding men and vasectomy partially is because of that. It is because of the planning side of that. If men were forced to have that vasectomy at age 40 or after 3 children, my goodness, it would be all, you wouldn't have all the women that are going all over the Supreme Court and have to put the fence around the Supreme Court to try to keep people out. They were trying to keep all the men out because, they were like, what in the world's going on? And, so that response, I think, would be telltale. But because we have, particularly the white men that are making this decision for all of the women in our country, we clearly, if this was a vasectomy decision, you certainly would go the opposite way.
Everybody, I want to know what you think. 773-763-9278. 773-763-9278. What if men were mandated? After 40, I'm with you. I hear you. Because it's just arbitrary, but Attorney Darryl Jones, there it is. After 40, if they were mandated to get vasectomies, what would happen if men after a certain number of children were mandated to get vasectomies? What about that? What if you were, what about that? If that were just something that we routinely did, because you're routinely asking women to shoulder the complete burden of child rearing, of childbearing, and without involving men in the discussion at all. No skin in the game. Let me go to you, Tim from DeKalb. Tim, what's on your mind? Hey, Tim, what's on your mind?
I think that'd be a pretty good place to start, thinking about forcing people to have things done to them physically and medically is wrong. I think that'd be a perfect place to start the abortion debate, because I have skin in the game. If that conversation is had, and of course no pun intended, but yes, then we're looking at sexual intercourse as something human beings can reason rather than act like alley cats and just be in heat and have to do the act and then move on with no consequences, like the male alley cat just goes on to another female to impregnate her, and she has to deal with the kittens. So yes, I think looking at this like human beings rather than animals that just mate and then move on is a perfect place to start this reasonable and logical debate about whether abortion is a human act or something worse, or something worse and or something better.
Well, Dwight, this does seem like this is a modest proposal, nodding to Mr. Swift. Just to put men in the discussion. It's very interesting. Why do you think that the search for, the process of a vasectomy shot up by 250% in the wake of this decision? What do you think has happened, Dwight?
Well, I think people are pondering options, and that particularly in relationships, in married relationships, where you talked about true family planning, that the man has to bear some responsibility for Planned Parenthood. Is that Planned Parenthood is not just aborting a fetus. Planned Parenthood is when two adult people who are married for a lifetime sit down and plan their approach to intimacy and love and family structure. And so the man has a real responsibility for that. And certainly he has options, whether contraceptive or rubbers or whatever men can use. But vasectomy for a lot of men is an option, and has to be considered if it's going to be a democratic process, an equitable process. But that's why I said that, and every man has the right to make that decision. The issue becomes when the state decides to make that decision, and not the person. And that's all women are saying. Women are not saying I'm inherently in favor of abortion. They're saying what I'm not inherently for is right for the state to decide in my behalf what happens to my body. And for some reason, the arrogance of men will not allow them to give women that freedom and that right. And that's why I said, well, it's very easy to be self-righteous, as you said, when you have no literal skin in the game. Which is why I said that when you convert to Christianity, if you were forced to have a circumcision to be a Christian, you see a whole country full of atheists and Buddhists.
You know what, Matt, turn him off right now, because he just and Darryl, take over. Unless you decide to go crazy too. But it's the truth. Everybody, I want you to call me. You know what? We're not making light of this. This really is about the state getting in your body. Now you have governors of at least 3 states who want to ban women from getting intrauterine devices, banning certain forms of birth control. What is that? No one would ever consider. We're not even it's not even up for consideration. Chris Rapp, you're right, did come up with this legislation. They called it a parody, but it did spark a conversation. What if men were mandated to get vasectomies? What about it? Can a man have too many children? What about that too? Think about that. And how would that change the conversation if men were in it? because you can discuss with your long-term partner, your husband, a vasectomy, and men recoil in horror. They do. I'm not mad at anybody. I'm just saying I think we need to talk about it. How would this change the conversation? If men's rights, that's right, Gene, if men's rights were on the table as well. On the table. I don't want to fight any men. I see a lot of folks getting real nervous. But AJ and Stephanie and everybody else, we're going to take your calls at 773-763-9278, 773-763-9278. Back with more of the Santita Jackson Show in just a few minutes. Why don't you speak to D. Ray? I mean, D. Ray said, what kind of law would that be? That men would be demanded to have a vasectomy. The same kind of law, D. Ray, that forces women. I feel like we're in The Handmaid's Tale, right, Darryl? Dwight? I mean, it's like, whoa, this is some kind of parallel universe. This is crazy. You know, the same kind of law that forces women. I mean, that really bans our reproductive rights. You do know that 54% of abortions now are medical abortions. That is to say, it's not. It is you take a pill or a couple of pills, I guess, and then the embryo is forced out of the body. Now, mind you, I say this as someone, I've said this to you time and time again. I'm someone who personally, I'm opposed to abortion, but I'm not going to make my personal opposition public policy. I don't believe in that. And I'm not going to make any woman who has to make such a profound decision feel bad.
Okay, Mrs. Rose,
Okay. Thank you so much. I wouldn't do that to anyone. Anyone who has to make that decision, I can't even imagine making that decision. Anyone who's put in that position deserves our love and caring. Because don't think that once the abortion is done that it's over for them. I know I have a couple of friends who've had them. It's something they carry with them forever. You know, we need to stop condemning people. One day you'll be on the other side of that condemnation and it won't feel great. Think about it. So, okay. Would you like to weigh in on this, Miss Wells?
Of course.
Well, you know what? I have another live read I've got to do before I get to you. I know. And of course, you have two of your favorites, Attorney Darryl Jones, who's still waiting on his food. Darryl, are you coming into the convention this year?
I'm hoping to be there. Absolutely. That's what I have planned.
You better come on. We can have fun. And I'm well now. Hallelujah. Oh. And it'll be a week before the primary, before my brother. They're trying to put him off the ballot now. Did you all know that, y'all? They're challenging every single one of his signatures. Every single one. So even though in many of the polls he's come in at number one, he could still not be on the ballot. Did I tell you that, Chaparral and Dwight? They're challenging every last one of his signatures. They're challenging every one of his signatures. Now they've done that with others, but we're getting so close to the primary. You know, he could conceivably be off the ballot until they render a decision. Politics. Don't you love it?
All right, we're under a minute here until we're back. Sorry, I was on the phone.
No worries. We've got AJ and Stephanie.
Yep, and
Okay.
we also have Rebecca now from the South Side who wants to comment on the discussion.
Okay, fantastic. I will bring them on. And Miss Rebecca, okay?
All right, we've got about 30 seconds here.
Thank you very much. I'm going to come in with this live read. This is great news.
Could you imagine, Santita, if they criminalized if you didn't have the vasectomy, that you'd go to jail? offer bounties like they do in Texas to turn people in there, turn 41 and they haven't had a second
I want you to put that out there. Because, we'd never do that to men. We just wouldn't do it. And it,
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Santita Jackson Show. WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, AM 950 radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota, the Santita Jackson and Friends Facebook page, and my YouTube channel. Everybody get on over there. Santita Jackson Show, the Santita Jackson Show. As we talk about men and vasectomies. What if there was a mandate for men to get the snip? Vasectomies. Everybody, of course, we're going to bring on Shoutout Wells in a hot second. But first, I've got some great news for you. Great news. I'm very excited about this. Oak Park Regional Housing Center has great news for you. Did you know that the Illinois Homeowner Assistance Fund is offering up to $30,000 of free money to pay your past due mortgage, property tax payments, and other housing costs? If you're behind on your mortgage payments due to COVID-19, so many people are, please go to IllinoisHousingHelp.org to find out if you're eligible. I'm going to say this again. Do you know that the Illinois Homeowner Assistance Fund is offering up to $30,000 of free money to pay your past due mortgage, your property tax payments, other housing costs? If you're behind on your mortgage payments because of COVID-19, go to IllinoisHousingHelp.org. IllinoisHousingHelp.org to find out if you are eligible. Call their office at 773-887-5187. 773-887-5187. I am going to bring them on this show to talk to you about this. The program ends May 31st. But go to IllinoisHousingHelp.org to see if you are qualified. And call the office at 773-887-5187. Shoutout, that sounds like a great program. It ends on the 31st, everybody. So please check at IllinoisHousingHelp.org to see if you're eligible. What is going on with this food that you have got to deliver to Attorney Darryl Jones when he gets to Chicago in another month? Shoutout, celebrations by us.
Yes, Santita, we are still cooking, and I have orders that I did yesterday, and I have one for Saturday, and I have a wedding. So we are gearing up for the prom, wedding, and graduation season, and we are in high demand and keeping it into gear. So don't hesitate to give us a call at 708-526-4546, 708-526-4546. Whether it is that you need like a custom sweet table, a hors d'oeuvre platter, sandwiches, tacos, whatever it is that you need, we can do it here at Celebrations by Us, 708-526-4546. Don't hesitate to give us a call. Our time is very limited. We have a couple of proms that we are doing next week, so don't hesitate to give us a call. 708-526-4546. Thank you so much, Santita.
Okay, you want to weigh in on this discussion. What about men? What about there some mandates for men to get a vasectomy if they've had a certain number of children? If they have, if they're at a certain age. Because after a certain age, do you really want to have kids, guys? No, you don't. You don't. You don't want to be some old parent chasing around these kids. For any of the old parents I'm talking to, but my parents were young parents, and they say, look, this is not for the faint of heart, and it is after a point you are huffing and puffing chasing these kids around the living room. What are your thoughts, Shoutout?
Well, Santita, it's some men out here who serve the community, and they constantly have babies all over America, and you gotta take care of it. So they do. Everybody knows somebody who has a multiple baby mamas, and this is something that could actually women for having this problem. But no, they out here serving the community. And my thing is that this may be even better because it's easier, less recovery time, as opposed to women getting their tubes tied and being on all type of hormone adjustments with birth control. So this may be the wave of the future. But we know that because men are making these laws, that they are not going to push for that to be the norm of family conservation and trying to limit the number of children one can have. We see, like in China, that they have that. I mean, they only are allowed to have one child.
Well, they changed that, but they did change that. But for the longest time, yeah, the most populous nation on earth would only allow you. It was illegal to have more than one child.
Yeah. So what do you think they were doing? Somebody was doing something to get either the women were getting sick or the men were getting sick. Either or, it was a population control that they had. And when I think about, I'm tired of women being the only person that is responsible, whether or not we can have children or we want to bring forth children. You know, it takes two to tango. So when you need that sperm and the egg to be fertilized, you can't do it by yourself. I don't care how you try to look at it. It takes two. So we are both equally responsible for a life that we're bringing forth. And so I'm just tired of the women having the sole responsibility of this decision making.
Pearl has spoken. What say you? 773-763-9278. 773-763-9278. I see you, Kitty Kurth. Kitty Kurth, brilliant political manager. In fact, she is heading up Pat Dowell's campaign. Would you let her get on the show, Kitty? I've reached out to you. I want Pat Dowell on this show. I want all the candidates on this show. I also want my brothers running on the show, too. I know the primaries are around the corner, but please get Alderman Dowell on my show. I'd love to hear her thoughts about this and so many other issues. Brilliant public servant she is. Everyone, let me go to Stephanie from Pembroke. Stephanie, what's on your mind?
Well, we already know what the answer is. If men were mandated to do anything, they could do it. Not just birth control. They would lose their man card to bring that up, and the answer would be there would be no discussion. Now, do you remember still happening years ago when women who were under 30, I think, did not even get their tubes tied if they didn't have children? If a woman that said, I don't ever want a family, she was not given the right to decide that at a young age. So, my point is, if men were forced to even keep the child and bring it up, the woman doesn't want it. That's not going to happen. Nowhere in the history of anything has a man been forced to keep his child. If his wife passed away, unfortunately, if she left him, people felt that man's pain. Why don't grandma or auntie or somebody step in and help that man with that child? He can't do this all by himself. But yet women are told to. You're going to make the other child take care of it all by yourself. If we can find a man, we make child support. But he has no physical, he's not mandated physically to ever get involved with a child. So the answer would be absolutely nothing would be on the book.
Stephanie has spoken. What say you? Let me go to AJ. AJ, what's on your mind?
Good morning, Santita and everybody. Good morning, Santita and everybody.
Good morning, AJ.
My perspective on it. Can you hear me?
Oh, can. What's on your mind, AJ?
Oh, yes. Good morning to everybody. My perspective is an economic perspective. I don't think men should be forced to get the vasectomy, but it saves you a lot of money, prevents you from getting on child support. And as far as abortions go, I'm all for it. I have no problem with them. It saves a lot of women from poverty to continue on with education. Matter of fact, this morning I was reading on Yahoo, Janet Yellen said poverty is going to increase because of this law, because these women are going to be forced to keep these children. they don't need or want or a family, you know. Because I particularly tell guys the best way you won't get on child support is don't have a baby, you know, like that. Because it's a burden. I'm going to say it like this. It's going to be a harsh thing I'm going to say, but children are a burden. They're not an asset. They are a depleting asset, in my opinion. And a lot of guys, they don't want to say it, you know, but that's my perspective on it. But I don't believe no man shouldn't be enforcing. And the men that want to overrule, I mean, they want to get away, get the, the abortion law to go away. I mean, I don't know. This country is coming for some dark time.
Well, AJ has spoken. What say you? 773-763-9278, 773-763-9278. Brian, what's on your mind today?
Good morning, Santita.
Good morning, Brian.
Pardon?
Good morning. Good morning.
Yes, I have a report from Chicago, sometimes May 15, 1986, and the report links pornography to violence. Conclusions is acceptance of a link between pornography and sexual violence, even sexually non-violent material viewed as degrading towards women leads to seeing rape and other sexual violence as less serious. And my point I'm making, I'm exploring this in a different way. As I understand it, in certain states now they are suggesting they want to have laws where if a woman is, even if she's raped, if she has an abortion, she could get charged with murder in the first degree and possibly spend the rest of her life in prison. And some may say, well, Brian, what you just are saying, are you asking to censor something? I said, well, if there's a proven connection between what people see on a consistent basis on television, especially in regards to, say, pornography, and that leading to more rape, where that will lead to more abortions, well, isn't it censoring a woman who gets an abortion who's raped, censoring her entire life? If you kind of get where I'm coming from.
Okay. So what about men getting? What if the state mandated that after a certain age, after a certain number of children, that you needed to get a vasectomy, that you needed to be sterilized? What do you think about that?
You mean forcibly?
The state, like women are being forced by the state to carry pregnancies to term. What if that happened to men? How do you think that would work out?
Oh, that definitely, that's never going to happen. I mean,
no, Brian. Why is that never going to happen? Why?
Because we live in a patriarchal society.
Okay.
And therefore, do I believe, my position is that I support Roe versus Wade's continuation. If I want to make some kind of adjustments to it, I can understand that. But what they're doing now is with these laws they're coming up with in certain states, and evidently so many different states in the country are just insane. I mean, upon women, you know. And so, but the idea of forcibly sterilizing anyone, no, I can't go with that. That sounds like Nazi Germany, you know.
No. Let's not go back to Nazi Germany. Let's slavery in America. No. I guess my only point is this: you don't have to go to Nazi Germany. There's a wonderful book, Hitler's American Model. Even the South African apartheid model was based upon what was done to Black people in the United States, what was done to indigenous people, the genociding of them. We don't need to go to Europe to look at the horrors of what human beings do to each other. That's my only point, Brian. But I think that what you have done is you brought up a brilliant point, and I want to go to Dwight and Darryl about a brilliant point. When I asked you about the mandating of the sterilization, to put it in those terms, of men after a certain age, after a certain number of children, you said, I said, you would that happen? You said, oh, of course not, because we're in a patriarchy. Dwight, I think he went to the heart of this. Of course not. We would never, we don't make men do anything. Nothing. Talk to me, Dwight.
And the next step to that, and this is how you know it would never happen, is the police would have the right to pull you to the side for a traffic ticket, like they do for marijuana, like they did these little girls on the bus, and look to see if you've been vasectomized. It passed a law called, balls against the wall.
Oh.
And it would have the option on any traffic stop, like for marijuana, or like they look for cannabis, is to have you pull your drawers down and say, have you been vasectomized? That's where this could go in that kind of society, but it won't, because men are in charge and they have, again, no skin in the game, and they're morally hypocritical. It's very easy for them to self-righteously put this burden on women. Even though they get the pleasure, men get all of the pleasure, most of the pleasure, out of the relationship. They have no stake in the game, other than once they get their pleasure, to walk away and leave the burden on the woman.
Darryl, what do you think? I mean, because it was interesting that Mr. Bryan reacted with incredulity. I mean, and I heard him. I'm not blaming him. I mean, he was right. He said, of course, we'd never mandate men to get vasectomies. We'd never mandate male sterilizations. I mean, think about what happened to Fannie Lou Hamer. The forced sterilization, not just of Fannie Lou Hamer, but of Black women. You go for an exam and you come out none the wiser, having been sterilized. It happens to women all the time. All the time. It happened here in the United States systematically. That's why I was saying, Brian, I don't have to go to Nazi Germany to see these horrors. Of course, the horrors committed there are just written in human history, and they should be. But be very clear. When you brought Nazi POWs to the United States, they were horrified by what was happening to Black people. They said, we don't even treat people in Germany this way. Hitler's American model, and there are more and more stories coming out about that. So and we need to understand the horrors of slavery, the horrors of the system that we have upheld in this country, because this sort of thing, Black women were forced to have babies by the slave master. And then they had to bring them in the home. There are so many stories about these interesting looking children, Darryl, who were white, but they were serving in Thomas Jefferson's home. And they looked like Thomas Jefferson, but. They were his children with Sally Hemings. You can't make this stuff up. So what about the incredulity? This would never happen in a patriarchy. Darryl.
Cynthia, Brian is exactly right. And, I say that, the same disdain that you heard coming from him, or thinking that men would be required to do this, is the same disdain that should be on everyone's forefront of their minds now, with women that are not being given the opportunity to control their bodies and to make their decisions on what's right for them. I would turn it up, and I heard what Dwight was saying with regards to the license and checking to see if you've received a vasectomy. But I would turn it up a little bit. We talk about the legislation that was proposed in Pennsylvania. That was the parity legislation, just saying that when men turned 41, that they would have to have a vasectomy. I would turn that up a little bit more, or after they have their children, they would have to have a vasectomy. more and do what Texas is doing, right? And this is a real life example, because in Texas we know that with the women, they've criminalized it.
Mm-hmm.
And then they put bounties out to say that people that know that a woman's getting one, that you get a $10,000 reward. So if we did that with regards to men and vasectomy, that if you know a man that turns 41 that has not received a vasectomy, that you turn them in and you can get a reward. You will be, have a financial incentive to turn these people in, these men in that aren't doing it. I can't imagine what the men's response in America would be to that. And that's precisely what's going on in Texas.
You know, I mean, when you put it like that, you know, imprisoning these women. And wait a minute, and everyone, even the Uber driver or the Lyft driver, they got to go to jail too. This is awful. I mean, it's really, really awful. I have a couple of minutes, actually about 3 minutes left, but I want to get some closing remarks from each of you. Let me start with you, Darryl. I mean, where do we go from here? Because patriarchy leaves men untouchable still in 2022 in the United States of America. Where do we go from here?
From here, Santita, I say that what we've got to do is we've got to be certain that we protect everyone's right to control their body. And the way to do that right now in that issue is being certain that we have representatives that are in place. We've got to vote these representatives in that represent the interests of our community and your interests. So if you're interested in controlling your body, you've got to be certain that you vote for representatives that best express that interest and hold that position, and we'll go to fight for you for those positions. That's where we are. That's how we got to where we are, because of the Supreme Court, which are appointed by presidents that were elected. The vote is so important to this, Santita. That's where it comes down to.
Well, just, I'm going to save this question for tomorrow. I'm going to ask you about the impeachment of these Supreme Court justices who clearly did not tell the truth in their hearings. I want you to think about that, because now they're pressing Susan Collins about that, and they should. She knew that Gorsuch and Kavanaugh and these others were not telling the truth about their positions on abortion, on reproductive rights. Dwight McKee, I got about a minute for you. Your closing thoughts.
I think that women legislators should begin to propose laws that require a man to have vasectomies, so that you could expose the hypocrisy and force men to vote on it. And if they vote yes, then they're consistent. If they vote no, then look at how they voted on abortion and expose the hypocrisy of these men. I think that it should be one in a democracy, and what's good for the geese is good for the gander. And that if I was a woman legislator, I would start framing laws today and meet with my caucus and start trying to introduce these laws so men can protest. And then I would force them to explain that if you can't do it, then why are you forcing me to do it? If you vote no for this, why are you voting yes for this? I'd always raise the state, raise the ante.
Amen to that. I agree with that. I really, really do. Because, everybody's got to pull their weight. And we have to begin to recognize all of these isms that eat away at us every day for what they are. Patriarchy, not a patriarch, but patriarchy, is not healthy. It's not. Favoring one gender over another, it's not healthy. It diminishes us all. So think about that. Think about these. I think that's a modest proposal, Mr. Swift. Dwight McKee. What about the women who are in the legislatures, state and federal, who say, you know what, let me give you a modest proposal. Men at the age of 40, sterilization. After 3 kids, 5 kids, sterilization, a vasectomy. Whoa. No, not voluntary. Not voluntary searches on Google. No. What about that? That would change the conversation. It would change the discussion, and it might even change our behaviors too, because we shouldn't be so cavalier about these intimate activities that have tremendous consequences. Yeah, we need to have that. We need to have that conversation too. Dwight, stay right here, because we're going to talk a little bit more on Facebook Live with you and Darryl if you can, if Darryl's not running to court today. But Think about that, everybody, because we need to begin to take responsibility for the things that we do. Yeah, that too. Let's not be cavalier. Sex is powerful. It is potent, and it's supposed to be. And we need to treat it that way. We need to treat it that way. And all people matter. We need to do that too. Men and women. Okay? Trans. Everybody matters. Love you, everybody. Can't wait to be with you tomorrow on the Santita Jackson Show. God bless. Dwight, what did you want to add?
And as Darryl said, they put a bounty on the head. Put a bounty on the men who have not done yet. And just match the legislation that they passed against the women, and make it create incentives for in the to say that if a man does not have a vasectomy, that he can go to jail. Is that we have to build parallel laws so when men look at them, they can see the ridiculousness of their positions or the arrogance of their positions, and that what looks to be them operating under a more imperative because they're in charge is really just them being authoritative and arrogant.
Darryl, what say you? You have anything else you want to add before we go? Well, Darryl might have gone on. Well, you know what? I thank you, Dwight, for this provocative discussion, for these provocative questions. I think it's something we've got to really talk about. We've got to really, 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 really talk about it. Really, 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 really talk about this. We really should. And Dwight, I just think we also need to have a deeper discussion about how we handle these intimate relationships. Sex is not a sport. It's not. It's not just something you do. That's another piece that we've got to deal with too. And we need to be very, very clear on what we're talking about here. Because it's my body when I want to terminate the pregnancy, but it's my baby if I want to carry it to term. We need to really, really, I am like Robert Patillo. I want to make abortion obsolete. I am a pro-life Democrat. I want to make it obsolete, but we're not pro-life. We have the highest maternal mortality rate in the Western world. White women, black women, brown women, yellow women, red women, every woman in the United States of America is at risk, severe risk of dying to have a baby. No one's talking about that in this discussion. Dwight? I mean, listen.
And the Constitution only guarantees life. The Constitution only guarantees life. Is life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Yes.
And the way these conservatives drop off is once you get past life, they then want to
pursue their happiness with me. That's how we got here. All of these moralizing people are our forefathers with our unwilling foremothers. Reverend Jackson said some years ago, people are products of white forefathers and black foremothers. That's the new America. So I want us to talk about what happened here in the United States. What happened here? What drove Rosa Parks? Rosa Parks was the state secretary of the NAACP when it was illegal to be a member of the NAACP in the state of Alabama. It was law in Alabama that you could not be a member of the NAACP, but this woman was the state secretary. And she was well known all over the state. Indeed, she was famous because what did she do? She would pursue and investigate the cases of Black women who had been sexually assaulted by white men, but the cases were never, ever pursued. They were never, or if they were taken down the legal path, they were laughed out of court or laughed out of the police station. And she did that because she said there's a wonderful book at the dark end of the street. I'm gonna have to find the author. When she looked at her family and when she looked at herself in the mirror, she said, "Oh, I see the abuse." My grandmother Helen, who you knew, Dwight, said the same thing. That's why she couldn't look. You heard me talk about this. She could not discuss Roots. She refused to watch it. She said, "Do you know why we look as we do?" She said, "Do you know why?" What? She said, "Do you think I want to be reminded of this?" Rosa Parks said, "No, I've got to pursue this. I've got to pursue these cases because these Black women are getting raped. And no one is prosecuting the rapist, and everybody in town knows who did it. So get out of here with this." And they had to have the babies. It either was religious dogma, because Black folks will tell you, no, you don't kill a baby. Oh my gosh, these women were walking around with the evidence of rape all day long. And these men just kept on going, Dwight. Kept on going. That's why I said, wait a minute, with all due respect to atrocities that have happened all over the world, I don't have to leave the United States to find horrors. Hitler based his program on what happened here. Hitler's American Model is a book that is out right now. The apartheid system was based upon Jim Crow. Came out of the United States. When you go to England right now, to Mr. Wilberforce's house, who led the abolitionist movement in the United Kingdom, specifically in England, he has stories written about what happened to Black people in slavery, how Black women were used as what now Koreans call the comfort women. You know, if a big plantation owner or a small one, or if they had a slave and they had a friend who came over, send out the woman, whether she was married or not, if she was allowed to have a partner, because it was illegal for us to marry and have our families. And if your slave master liked you, you were at his mercy, and he might kill the man you love because he had the ultimate power. Oh, Dwight, we got to tell the stories, because white women are not safe either. You've never been safe. So I'm talking about skin in the game. Skin in the game. You know, I don't want to see any life lost, Dave. I don't want to see any life lost. But if we're going to talk about being pro-life, and the so-called pro-lifers, we need to yank that back, because they're not pro-life. They don't protect women when they find out that they're pregnant. We don't have a program to save women from maternal mortality that is killing American women of all colors at an alarming rate. No one's talking about that. Well, the Biden administration is. This is awful. What about postnatal help? We don't do that. You don't even want to educate children. You don't want to fund universal pre-K, but you don't give $40 billion to Ukraine. Ukraine needs the money, but we need it too. We need it first. We've been in a pandemic. You've not talked about universal health care. People got sick with COVID, and if they could get tested, because Black and brown people could not get tested, and they were turned away at the hospitals, told to go home and take Tylenol. So by the time they went back to the hospitals, they were too sick to be treated, and they died. In all of this, we are still not talking about universal health care, which everyone deserves. We're not talking about paying people a decent wage.
Life. That's why I said they won't talk about life, but never liberty and pursuit of happiness. Never those things that give you quality of life. Just life. You don't have the baby, and whatever will happen, whatever will be. And it's so unfortunate, because it is so unfair to the woman who knows
her circumstances and knows what she has to deal with, knows her resources and resources that she does not have. And the man is absolved for the most part. It's just unfair.
Absolutely. And wait a minute, and you're right. And let me tell you, Effie Rolfe, our dear friend, legendary Effie Rolfe out of the world of radio and media, she said, and babies can't get enough formula these days. And I wonder why. Nearly four companies control near net of the formula market. How are you not going to come up with enough formula for some babies? And you want to strike down Roe v. Wade? Are you kidding me? Wait a minute. I want to know why Nestle and Reckitt and Abbott and Perrigo can't come up with enough formula. What's going on with you? Why can't you come up with enough formula? What's going on? No. Everybody's making money hand over fist. Hand over fist. You turn America into the land of the Hunger Games, Dwight. People are desperately looking for formula to feed their children. They can't do it. You can't give a newborn water. Their systems are too tender for that. And you all need to start asking some questions. How is it that the corporations are making money hand over fist? How is it that there are more billionaires than ever before? How is it that this very, very tenacious bit of people are doing well and the rest of us are starving? Our babies are starving once they get here. Open your eyes and your mouths and put on your shoes and you get out in these streets and march, because this is not right. This broken food supply chain, what is up with that? We had farmers on this show who said, I can't get food from the crops to the street that borders my farm. We never came up with a program for that. So people could get something to eat. And now you're not feeding babies. And you're telling me there's a shortage? You need to explain why there's a shortage. I want to know, how is it that y'all can't come up with some formula for some babies? You need to tell me that. Dwight, you have any ideas, any thoughts?
I think you said it all, Santita.
Broken food supply. Give me a break. What's broken? Please. The morality is broken. I'm sick of this. Yeah, it's just wrong. It's wrong. It's wrong. You can't even drive your car now. It costs too much. Wait a minute. And then you're going to put it on Putin. We had a problem with rising gas prices and inflation before Ukraine. And don't tell me that it's only because Ukraine is the breadbasket of Europe that our food is going up. No. We can grow and we can do everything. America is so blessed. We don't need to leave the United States to get gas, oil, food, nothing. We are self-contained. So why aren't we self-sufficient? Why are people starving in America? Why? Ask the questions and do not be afraid to get the real answers. Search for the answers, not for your version of an answer. Oh, Dwight, we got work to do. But I'm gonna find out about these baby formulas. I mean, how are you gonna starve children? Dwight, that is just evil. It's evil. And then, you just give your child any the formula. Well, just let them use another formula. The formula might hurt the child's stomach. I saw a news report this morning. This mother said, my child doesn't do well with this formula because it makes my baby sick. So I guess your baby's just supposed to cry. What? If it makes your baby sick, that's something that they should not be taking. You mean to tell me these 4 companies can't get together and figure out how to produce some formula?
And again, men, for the most part, made it illegal to breastfeed your baby in public.
Do you understand what I'm saying? Did you hear what you just said? Because Black women were considered, and indigenous women and women of color were considered to be savages. It was not This is not what ladies did. Feeding the child you gave birth to. So during slavery and post-slavery, white women would have the baby and just hand it off to the black nurse, the wet nurse.
That's what a mammy is.
Woo.
That's what a mammy is.
Okay. So, I'm simply saying, we got a lot of work to do. Got a lot of things we need to figure out, y'all, because you can't tell me that these four companies can't come up with Similac. And now I got Susan Collins crying because people have written a chalk message in front of her home. She's offended. Well, I'm offended that you let Kavanaugh and Gorsuch lie to you. And then I'm offended that you think that I am so stupid that I believe you when you say you didn't know that they were lying to you. You must think I am dumb. You knew they were lying to you. All of the senators did. And you didn't challenge them. And be very clear. If Roe v. Wade is overturned, you're going to have a real social mess in the United States, Dwight. I really believe that. Things are going to get very ugly, and we do not need to go down that road. But I have a feeling that this is not going to work out very well, Dwight. Your thoughts?
Same goes. I think that the long-range consequences of this can be devastating. It changes the economy of the whatever progress that women have made in the last 50 years. It's going to put a lot of them out of the workplace because now you have a baby to feed and to deal with every day. And so it just puts you on a different economic track.
Mm-hmm.
It puts you in a different moral category because society is so judgmental about babies born out of wedlock. I don't know if you remember, I know you do, people in the old days, when a young teenager had a child, she was ostracized by and large from the community.
My father's mother had to walk out of the church with him from the front of the church to the back and apologize for her sin, and she was kicked out of her church.
And the child becomes almost a scarlet letter.
Yeah.
For most of the teenager's life. And so there's some real implications there, some real long-range implications. And it creates tension between, in the most part, between the woman and the father, particularly if he didn't want the baby. And so now they're at odds. Because now he's trying to take care of a baby that he didn't want. It can be catastrophic situation.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. And it is catastrophic. But these people don't believe fat meat is greasy, but they're about to see a whole lot of grease. Oh yeah.
So now he resents not just the mother, he resents the child. Which the child also has to grow up and deal with, which is going to make him dysfunctional and going into social pathology. I mean, there's some consequences that we really haven't looked at. That when you look at the next generation, it's going to be catastrophic.
Well, because these people have not had to look. A lot of people have not had to look. And what did you say, Effie? And the married deacon or preacher just sat there while the woman apologized and had to leave the church. Well, my grandfather was kicked out too, and he was the head deacon at the church. But that having been said, that's another discussion that we need to have, Effie, because we all need to take responsibility for that, which we do. He is married, so don't fool with that. Be a sister. Show some solidarity to me. I don't care how much he's winking and nodding at you. It ain't about you because a man ain't gonna leave his wife. He's not gonna do it. So on that, see, we don't want to have that discussion because we just want to say, well, men are responsible. No. God gave women the power to give birth. God trusted women so much that God put humanity inside of our bodies. So now women need to live up to the strength and the virtues for which they were created. That's what we need to do. Now that's real. I'm not going to give us space on that. No. Some things. Huh?
I think the converse of that is true too. That God didn't trust men enough.
Thank you.
Inside of them.
That's right. And wait a minute. And after God made women, he was done making everything. So now women, we're gonna have to step up to the plate too. I'm not gonna give us space on that. Oh no. Women are not weak. We're the fairer sex, but we're not the weaker one. No. Women's whole body can open up, accommodate another human being, push it out, and come back together again. A woman can do anything. Anything. Women don't have the missing rib, a man does. So no. No, I'm not gonna give us that space. No. But I still believe that we need to have agency over our bodies. And if men were subjected to that which they subject us, and if they grew from it, they wouldn't let this happen. Yeah, that's right, Jewel and Laura. No. Effie, no, we've got to have a discussion amongst women about. We need to have a congress amongst ourselves about what we're going to do. And if we're going to have a pro-life society, then let's have a pro-life society. Let's have one. And let's come together with men and make it happen. But we need to lead that discussion. Absolutely. Got to do it. Yeah. We got to do that. We got to do it. And we can. We've got that kind of power. Dwight McKee, I love you. You have got everybody talking this morning. This is Dwight's fault. So, this is, oh my goodness, this is what he does all the time. Dwight, I love you. You want to say anything else to the people before we go?
No, and I think you're right. I think women need to have discussion, and I think they need to take it to the next level.
What level is that?
In a war, they're right. And if they have to make men, again, I always believe in democratized thing. And they have to put it in a perspective that men could deal with it. Because we would not tolerate what we impose on them. If men had periods, they'd be paid leave. In all workplaces. If men had periods, they'd be paid leave.
Of course.
You have to raise the ante.
That's right. Raise the ante. And understand that men and women are different. Understand that. Understand that not only are we different, we bring different, and because we are different, we bring different gifts to the table. And women need to appreciate who we are and what we really bring to the table, what we do. We need to do that. Because that's part of the problem too. We don't realize just how special we are. I read somewhere that eggs are precious and sperm is cheap. Men produce sperm every day. Women have a finite number of eggs. You need to treat your eggs as precious. You need to treat yourself as precious. Think about that. And you fight for yourselves and fight for all of humanity. This madness has got to stop. Because it's just madness. It's madness. Dwight McKee, I love you. L. Stanley Davis. Oh, hallelujah. Lorraine and John and Jewel. Joyce, Angelica, girl, go on into your workout, girl. Effie and Jewel and Dave. I love all of you. You just don't know. You've been such blessings in my life. And I hope that I've been able to give to you some of what you've given to me. And I just thank God for you. I love you all so much. Please come to the Push Convention, June 18th through the 22nd. Please, please, please. Hey, Darlene, what's going on, girl? And come to the convention, June 18th through the 22nd. Go to rainbowpush.org, and love you, Laura. And make sure that love you, Lorraine. Love you, Darlene. Love you, Jewel. Love you, love you, love you, D-Ray. And oh my goodness, and Effie and Dave. Ooh. And John. I love all of you, Joyce. Love you, love you. Angelica's about to go get her workout on. Love it. But go to rainbowpush.org and get registered for the convention. I want to see you there. It's going to be a good time, great time. I love you. God bless you. I love you, but God loves you more. Ain't that the good news? Love you, everybody. Bye-bye.